What, my dear, would you do if you had all the courage in the whole world? What would you do with that courage? I'm going to talk about it today. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Yes, You Are Brave. I'm Pawnee, your host, and today we're talking about what we would do with more courage, with more brave. First of all, I want to say welcome to June. I know we're already significantly into June, but welcome to June. I'm excited that you are here. So the theme for June is going to be fun and freedom, and we're going to talk a lot about those this month. And I wanted to start off with this question of what would you do with more courage? Because I feel like if we acted like we had more courage, if we actually had more courage, that would open up a lot of fun and a lot of freedom for us. So back in 2021. President Russell M. Nelson of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints gave a talk about faith. And one of the things that he said, this question that he gave, which is totally stealing from it for this episode. He said, what would you do if you had more faith? Think about it, write about it, then receive more faith by doing something that requires more faith. And this was brought to my attention recently because it was in some extra reading for one of the Sunday school lessons. And I've been thinking a lot about it, right? What would you do with more faith? And of course, I couldn't help but think about the podcast. And what would you do with more courage? What would I do if I was a braver person? And I want to talk about that, and I want to explore this a little bit today because I feel like a lot of times people tell you, there's that whole fake it till you make it thing, right? But I feel like that is not always the most helpful. So let's talk about it a little bit because I feel like really it's not so much a fake it till you make it. It's not that flippant, I'm just pretending to be happy or whatever and hoping against hope that I become happy. But when we act the part, then we're more likely to be able to actually receive the part, right? The way to get more courage is to act like you already have more courage. And why is that? That is because we learn by doing, right? Now, this is not anything new. This is not anything big or crazy or new. We've known for a long time, right, that we learn by doing. And if we, doesn't matter what it is. If you want to be a better swimmer, guess what you have to do? You have to be swimming. Right? You have to spend time in the pool or in some body of water swimming if you want to be a better swimmer. If you want to be a better piano player, guess what? You have to play the piano. If you want to be a better gardener, you have to spend time actually in the garden trying to grow things. If you want to be better at baking, you got to be in the kitchen baking. So if we take that, right, and of course, because I'm from an education background, it's Vygotsky's zone of proximal development, which basically is the place just beyond, not way beyond, but just barely beyond what we know and can do. And that's where we really grow and where we really learn and where the magic actually happens, is that place just past where we're comfortable, just past where we really know what we're doing. We go past that, and that's where we learn and grow. Okay, so my question for you now is, what do you want to do? What have you been telling yourself you wish you were brave enough to do? What have you seen other people doing and said, I could never do that? Or I wish I was brave enough to do that. Think about that for a second. What is it you want to do? What is it that you feel like you really want to do? Okay, so that's going to be a little strange, a little odd. But if we take a little jump into the future, okay? If someone handed you a bag with all the courage you would need to do anything in the whole world, where would you start? What would you do? What would you do if somebody could just hand you a bag and had all the courage you could ever need in it? Or, if we look at it this way, if you could put all of your fears and your insecurities into a box for 24 hours, what would you do with those 24 hours? If I offered to hold them for you, and it was physically possible, or for me to hold all of your fears, all of your insecurities, where would you go first? What would you do first? What would you say first? And I know that this is all a little vague, because I want you to think about what would you do if you had more courage. I want you to really hone in on what you want. Because sometimes the biggest hindrance to something, the biggest thing holding us back, is the fact that we're just not sure what we want. My husband and I have the biggest fight we have is who's going to decide what we're having for dinner. Not who's going to make dinner. Either one of us is more than happy to make dinner most of the time if we don't have to decide what we're having for dinner. But you got to know what you want. And I think that most of us, we know what we want. We know the thing that we would do if we had the chance. Right? We know that we would love to do X, Y, and Z. But it's scary. And it's big. And it feels like somehow we don't have what it takes to do it. But what would you do if you had that courage? Now I'm sure you're thinking this all sounds really great, but again, it's very vague. So let's get a little bit more specific maybe. What is one thing you would do in your professional life with that bag of courage and all of your insecurities in a box? One thing in your professional life. Would you ask for a raise? Would you start claiming your work instead of letting your teammates claim it for you? Would you update your resume and start looking for a different job? Would you apply for that promotion? What's one thing in your professional life that you would do with that bag of courage? Another thing that's quite specific is what's one difficult conversation you would have. I know that maybe not everybody, but I know that there is a whole list in the back of my mind of difficult conversations that I would like to have. One, because I'm not super great with conflict and stuff. And two, some of the difficult conversations that I would like to have are with people that our relationships are not where they once were, and I don't feel like we can have very many difficult conversations right now. What difficult conversation would you have if you had all this courage, this bag of courage? Let it be with your mom, your spouse, your brother, your best friend, your neighbor. It's one difficult conversation that you would really like to have, or that needs to be had. I don't think that sometimes we necessarily want to have the difficult conversations, but they do need to be had a lot of times. So, what's one difficult conversation you would like to have, mostly to get it over with? And number 3, what's one thing you would add or get rid of from your personal life? Now, you're like, oh yeah, I'm sure you're thinking, oh yeah, that's not very helpful. That's not very specific. But what's one piece of clothing that you want to try, but you're too scared, but it's too bright, but it's too tight, or it's too not your age, whatever it is? What is one thing kicking around the house that you absolutely have no use for, that you don't like, that you don't want, but you're afraid to get rid of because somebody gave it to you or it came from such and such? Just hate the thing. What's one class that you would love to take? Is it you want to learn how to take pictures, or you want to learn how to throw pots, or you want to learn how to code? What's that one class that you've been dying to take? Either online or in person. What's that class? And who's one person that you would love to reach out to? One person. Maybe it's an old friend from high school, or a roommate that you had in college that you've just lost touch with, or maybe it's a family member who things have kind of not been so great between you. There's a million other things that you could do with this bag of courage. These are just a few little questions that I had for you to maybe try to figure out what it is that you want to do. And I know that sometimes we got to start small. We want to ask for that promotion. We want to have that difficult conversation. We want to set those boundaries with our family member. But we're really struggling. So start small. If you need to start small, buy that shirt that is a little bit brighter than you normally wear. You don't have to wear dark blue and brown and black all the time. Buy the purple one. Right? Start small. Buy the purple one. Try that new restaurant. Order something different off the menu. Take a different route home from work. Or take the long way to church or home from church. Maybe home from church is a better idea. I would love for you to sit down and make a list. Like was mentioned in the quote from President Nelson, to think about it. What would I do if I had this bag of courage? What would I do if all of my fears and all of my insecurities were trapped in a box for 24 hours? Think about it. Maybe write it down. I also want you to think of, in the spirit of this month and our themes, what kind of freedom would that allow you to have if you acted like you had the courage to do those things? If you just started acting like you had more courage instead of waiting to have more courage. Start acting that part. Start doing those things. What would it look like? What would it change? What kind of freedom would that allow you to have? What kind of ripple effect freedom would that allow you to have? And what kind of fun could you have in a world where you weren't so afraid of everything? I have to tell you that one of the things for me that has been the most freeing in my whole life is realizing that sometimes fears and insecurities and struggles and worries are not actually mine. And because they're not mine, I can't do anything about them except for put them down. And there is a freedom in putting down other people's worries and fears and insecurities. There's a huge freedom in that. So have the courage to put other people's crap down and to decide to look at what you want and then start living like I just handed you a bag of courage and a locker for your fears and your insecurities. See what kind of fun and freedom happen as a result of that. And I would love to know. I would love to know what you do with that bag of courage. So let me know on social media and stuff. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the fun and the freedom that we find when we use that bag of courage. Remember that you are amazing and you are wonderful and you are awesome and you You can live the life that you want. You can be the person that you want. You have what it takes to make those changes, whatever they are, big or small. I would be willing to bet that most of them are pretty small, but they will compound over time and they will have an amazing effect for you. So don't be afraid to start making them. And you are worth it, my dear. You are so worth the effort and the time and the feeling a little awkward. You're worth it. So go live a big, beautiful, bold, loud, or quiet life, but live a life that makes you happy and makes you excited. And if you feel like you're not quite sure, if you have the courage to do it, I want you to metaphorically put out your hand, because I am here to hand you this bag of courage. You can do it, because you're amazing and you're wonderful and you're awesome. And yes, my dear, you are so incredibly brave. So go live like you've got all the courage in the world, because you do. I love you. Have a great day.